What did the father buffalo say to his kid when he left? Bison.
If you want to see fear on the staff's face as you walk into the office and say, I think the bison are loose.
Welcome to In the Parks, an Indiana State Parks podcast. I'm Allison Martin, and I'm excited to tell the stories of these amazing places in the Hoosier State. Our parks show off the best of Indiana: bald eagles and bison, fire towers and caves, ancient fossils and Native American mounds, waterfalls and sand dunes. But there's so much more to these parks, and it's time to go in-depth to really know the stories and discover what makes each destination unique and valuable as part of Indiana. On In the Parks, you'll learn about the people, legends, and places that formed Indiana's parks in the past and who is writing the story now. Today, we're headed to Ouabache State Park. As soon as I turned on the road back to Ouabache, I could tell I was in for a treat. It felt like I was headed to family camp, and it probably helped that I went with my sister and niece and nephew, who are 4 and 8. Seeing the park through kids' eyes made it even more fun to visit. But I had one really important question I had to get answered. You got to clarify. How do you pronounce the name of this park?
It's a source of consternation with the local community. There was a stretch where it was officially pronounced Ouabache.
That's what I had wondered, because that would have been probably the French pronunciation of it.
It was changed back to the original pronunciation, which was Ouabache.
And that's what we're going to stick with.
That's what we're sticking with.
Do you know any of the reasons why the name has been both mispronounced and misspelled so many times?
So the folklore behind the Q, it was designated as Ouabache State Recreation Area in 1962. When the maps were being made for this property, they were hand-drawn and handwritten. And so when the maps were submitted for the Department of Transportation to make signs, the O was misread as a Q. For a long time, it was considered Ouabache State Park. There are some folks around town that still call it Ouabache. It's since been corrected to an O.
That's pretty funny.
So,
what makes this guy an expert on the park's name? Well, he is the property manager.
My name is John Winnie. I'm the manager at Ouabache State Park. I started with state parks as a seasonal laborer at Spring Mill State Park. I was the manager at Harmony State Park until 2018 when I transferred here to Ouabache.
John shared some of his favorite features of the park with me.
We have a herd of bison here. That's probably our most unique feature, and a historic fire tower that I really love. There aren't very many of those left in the state. Ours was renovated in 2019. So we have a swimming beach that opened in 2018. That's very popular with the local community and visitors. We do boat rentals. So we have paddle boats, canoes, kayaks. That's also a very popular activity. Fishing. The lake here is 25 acres. Has bass, bluegill, sunfish, and catfish. Nice fishing. It's a very family-friendly park. It's a very relaxing park.
In addition to those major features, there's also a tennis court, sand volleyball, basketball court, swimming at the lake, and a nice wooded campground with well-spaced sites. The fire tower is definitely high with 106 steps, but my niece and nephew climbed to the top, so if you can handle the heights, you can do it too. Pro tip, go down the stairs backwards so it's like a ladder and it doesn't feel so steep. The trails were also kid and stroller friendly, assuming your stroller is a little more durable. They were wide, mostly flat, and a dream for easy trail running. Incidentally, there are several local races that run in the park and would be fun for those close by. I also recommend taking on the CCC Challenge, which is marked by yellow signs. It's about a 4-mile trail and takes you through the park property past several historic spots. John shared there are also updates in the works for a new nature center and office.
We have a project in the works. It's in the design phase right now for a new visitor center that we're very excited about. That'll contain new ADA compliant offices. It'll contain a small nature center, which we currently don't have, and a small retail space.
Most of the park's buildings were built in the 1930s, so adding these updates will be essential for the park to continue connecting with their visitors. They already have a strong relationship with the city of Bluffton. John explains some of the reasons why.
Another really great feature about Ouabache is our connection with the local community. We have a tremendous amount of support from local groups and businesses and the town of Bluffton. We have a paved bike trail that goes from the park all the way into town. It connects with the River Greenway that's operated by the Bluffton City Parks. So you can hop on your bike and you can ride all the way to downtown Bluffton, and that's a really neat feature.
Features like that are just one of the many reasons for the thriving community relationships that have been formed at Ouabache. To understand the park's immense appeal and the community's loyalty to it, we'll need to go back in time. To do that, we'll need a little help. Let's meet Jody Heaston, who wears a lot of hats for Indiana DNR. She'll be our guide to the past.
My name is Jody Heaston, and I am the volunteer coordinator for Indiana State Parks and the Indiana Master Naturalist Coordinator for State Parks. And I've been working for DNR for about 27 years now. So my first job was interpretive naturalist.
With a background as an interpretive naturalist, Jody's job then was to tell the story of the park, and she does it beautifully. Jody explained how Ouabache's history laid the foundation for what it is today. Talking with her made it clear that Ouabache is a how-to manual for building a lasting legacy. It starts with a vision and a purpose. And it helps when your vision aligns with a piece of property that needs a lot of love. Meet Virgil Simmons and Kenneth Kunkle, two Bluffton lawyers with a plan. Here's Jody.
Virgil Simmons, who became the director of the conservation, is from Bluffton. Then the director of the Division of Fish and Wildlife that was appointed was also from Bluffton, and that's Kenneth Kunkle. They both envisioned this property to be state-of-the-art, very modern, and when it was first built, it was called the Wells County State Forest and Game Preserve. It wasn't a state park.
The men had a purpose and positions where they could create their vision, but the land needed a lot of work. Enter the Civilian Conservation Corps.
The CCC came to this property in 1935. This was just a wasted farmland. So they built everything from the roads to the lake, every single shelter around here. On this property, the whole idea was this to be a tree nursery where they had thousands and thousands of trees they were shipping out everywhere. They had state-of-the-art filtration system, irrigation system, and then they also were producing quail, pheasants, and raccoon here. Back then, when you think of the 1930s, 40s, you didn't have the habitat for the raccoons, the pheasants, and the quail, so they were being produced here and shipped out across the nation. And raccoons, it's hard to even imagine.
Thanks guys, thanks for that one.
The vision is a lot more than raccoons. Ouabache also brought in bison, which we'll talk more about later. And the CCC group, made up of young men, typically 18 to 20 years old, put in the work to make the vision a reality.
The CCC built this entire park. There was nothing here. Our Kunkle Lake, it's a 25-acre lake. They hand dug that. So that's why we feel that CCC is really important to our property, just because it would not be here.
And the CCC boys really understood all the work they did was for the future.
Well, that's interesting now because you're also seeing several different long-term effects of the CCC group, like the legacy of the facility itself, but even the desire to have animals here. It's very different animals, but it's another animal that doesn't really have a presence in the U.S. anymore. Maybe it wasn't raccoons now, but it's bison. And so just to see many of the things that were the philosophy and goals of the park when it was created as something else are still being valued today.
Yeah,
really cool.
I actually have a quote here. This property, it says, it was rather to change it from a useless, expensive eyesore to a place of pleasant surroundings, recreation, into one of the finest forests and game preserves in the country, just a place to go, enjoy nature's wonders, and spend happy hours in the outdoors. And then it goes on to say, with the sole idea it was built for your use, a monument that will be handed down from generation to generation. So they would say that over and over again to these boys, tell them that this is going to be such an important property, really a place for the community to come. And that's why the community still embraces it, because it was just put into all these generations year after year that this is like such an important property.
I wish those young men from the 1930s could see how well-loved Ouabache is almost 100 years later. Jody shared a few fun stories with me about the days of the CCC boys, before Ouabache was a state park. Like, when they dug out the lake, the dirt was piled up in the middle of the pit that would eventually be filled with water. Much of the dirt was used in other projects, but a sizable amount remained, and the guys didn't know what to do with it. Director Kunkle, who the lake was named after, told them to leave the dirt in the middle of the lake and turn it into a wildlife island, which is still there today. Another story is when the property was a game preserve, they used to have something called a vermin house. Vermin's kind of an old word, so if you need to look it up, like I did, vermin are wild animals harmful to crops or livestock.
So we're in the Trails Inn parking lot, our Trails Inn shelter parking lot. This actually, again, was another building that was built during the CCC time, and it was called the Vermin House, which in it had a mountain lion, a bear, bald eagle, owls, bobcats. It was like a zoo in one building. And some people call it the Stinky House too, because it was just one building with all these animals in it. And one of the funny stories is the bear Each of the CCC boys took turns cleaning the bear's cage. In order to do that, you had to give the bear a bottle of Coke. The bear would drink the Coke, so you had just enough time to get in there and clean while the bear was drinking the Coke.
But there's not enough space here for all of those animals either.
I know, when you look at this parking lot was the building. So that was it. Mm-hmm.
Which has like enough room for 12 cars
Yeah.
and some, space in between. But
So
I'm sure there are some stories from people when they were growing up coming here.
It's definitely for the best that the Vermin House went away in the 1960s. Jody also showed me the lodge, which the CCC boys built, and while the Vermin House needed to go, the lodge 100% deserves to be here.
there was a gentleman that, let's see if he's still in here, he was looking at for a wedding. So he was looking at for his son's wedding. Yeah, he's out of here now.
Oh, this is beautiful. What a great place for a reception.
Yep, we had lots of weddings and family reunions in here. I just had my family reunion a couple weeks ago in here. So we're now in the Lodge Recreational Building. Again, this was built by the CCC boys around 1937. It has 2 rooms. This room that we're standing in is the recreational room, and it was built primarily for that, for people to use for family reunions, meetings, weddings, and we still, to this day, still do that. The other room was built for the governor. Governor McNutt, his apartment was over here. So we have 2 rooms. We now have a doorway in between the 2 rooms, but that was the governor's apartment.
The lodge still has a massive stove from the 1930s, but thankfully, everything else is updated for today. There's even Wi-Fi if you want to rent the facility. Unfortunately, while an incredible amount of work was completed, eventually the CCC camp closed, and while the property's purpose remained, the work was done by different people.
It was just supposed to be this amazing, amazing facility, but then the war came. And so the CCC camp became a conscientious camp. And so those men kept working on the property to keep the pheasants going, the quail going, the raccoons going, tree nursery going. They got moved to Jasper, Pulaski. Within a year, they moved that whole camp. The tree nursery, the big, huge building, actually became a prisoner of war building for the Germans from the war. So we actually then had them help keep this facility going because they're trying to make this against state of the art, but just could not keep up with the vision that they had for the CCC boys that had to go to war. We also have a statue here, the CCC statue. Our Friends group established that because one of our Friends group members, he was a CCC veteran. He was so proud of being a CCC veteran that he felt that there needed to be a statue here.
The CCC group's foundation was so strong that literally and symbolically, they built this park to what it is today. The buildings are still intact, and so is the vision for the property. In 1962, it became Indiana's 22nd state park, which ensures it will continue to be a monument handed down to future generations. One of the legacies of Ouabache is how it features an animal from America's past that nearly went extinct, the bison. The 20-acre bison pen is a highlight of the park. It's the main reason I wanted to visit with my niece and nephew, who delivered that awesome joke from the start of the episode. The bison pen is surrounded by a gravel path, so visitors can walk the perimeter and observe these amazing animals. You can also see into the enclosure from the top of the fire tower, which is a really cool vantage point. Jody and I walked to the enclosure, and she shared with me lots of great bison facts.
Who decided let's have bison here?
So again, that was decided by the concert director of the conservation, Virgil Simmons. So why wouldn't he want his home park to have bison in it? Bison were brought here in 1936 from Pokagon. The neat thing about that is Pokagon got their bison from the Yellowstone, which was the last original 24. If you think about the true American bison, they almost became extinct. And there only were 24 true American bison left that were then protected at Yellowstone. Some of those bison were given to Pokagon, and then we were given some from Pokagon, so the lineage from our bison can go back to the Yellowstone bison. We have currently 7 bison, counting the baby, because we just had a baby this year. So usually about 12 is kind of our limit. And once we get to that point, then we do sell off the bison to a local bison farm with a clause that they cannot slaughter that bison. We have that baby bison usually every other year. So we have 3 bulls and 3 females, and then the baby. And one of our oldest bison, who's 19, is a female. She doesn't breed anymore. And then our youngest bison before the baby was born is 2 years old. That's another female. So she'll be breeding next year, or the one was about 10 years old. Their lifespan is about 20 to 21 years, so just really neat to see them grow from calf to adulthood.
It was just wild to see the bison up close. The day I went, the bison were hanging out in a water hole or eating grass, but when they saw a group of people at the fence, they wandered over to say hello. They were so big, and the baby was very cute, although Mama did not want him to get too close to the fence and herded him away when he acted a little too curious. I asked Jody what kind of care bison need.
Just like in the wild, they're very good at eating what they can find out here, and we try to make sure that they have nice grasses. We are trying to make a nice pasture for them, the healthy grasses. Now in the wintertime, we do feed them hay. About once a week, we come out and they know when they hear the tractor coming, they go right to where the hay is going to be dropped. But in the summertime with our naturalists, every Saturday, usually at 10 o'clock in the morning, we have a bison feeding, and we do feed them sweet grain. The public can watch them get fed. So do we have to do that? No, it's a treat. And they love their treats, so they come running to the to the feeding station to get their sweet treat. The baby, the mom, and the 2-year-old are all together always, and so they're really fun to watch. The 2-year-old and the baby kind of play still together. The baby, when it's first born, they're obviously a different color as the rest are herd. They're more of a reddish orange color, and they're called red dogs when they're first born, because they're kind of the size of a dog, 30 to 40 pounds in that time. So they're so cute. Within the year, they lose that red color. The males can get to 2,000 pounds, 1 ton. Females, around 1,000, maybe a little bit more. Bison can run 35 miles an hour and sustain that for 4 hours. Just think about that, athletic. They can do that, and they can jump a 6-foot fence, no problem. And they can turn on a dime, so they can be running and then pivot right away, real quickly. Very good swimmers too. People don't realize that. Just R6, when they're running, I mean, you can hear the thumping of their hooves coming your way.
35 miles an hour for 4 hours? I haven't been able to get that thought out of my mind. What a sight it must have been to be out west and suddenly feel and hear the sound of hooves pounding during a stampede. Can you imagine being a Native American or settler in your wagon and suddenly see the dust rising as the thundering herd came your way? What an incredible and probably terrifying experience that would have been. I wanted to know, though, what are bison like?
They're herd animals, so they are protective of their herd. And in the wild, typically it's all females in one herd. Then the males are kind of more solitary, unless they're younger males from previous births. They are protective of their herd, so if they feel threatened, they'll let you know they feel threatened and come charging after you.
On the drive to Ouabache, my nephew read aloud a book about bison that he got from the library. I learned they lived all over the United States, from the northern states all the way to Florida. Jody explained how their bodies and fur help them in the winter especially.
They do grow a winter coat on, and it seems like it takes them the whole summer and half of fall to get rid of it, and then they grow it again. I just feel so bad for them. But you can tell a lot of our trees from pretty much 3 feet down are rubbed raw because they rub against the trees, they rub against our fence. And in the springtime, a lot of time people walk the fence trying to find the bison fur, that skin on the fence. Their front end, the head, their shoulders are a lot thicker fur than their back end. In a snowstorm, in the wild especially, if they're out in the west, there's a snow blizzard, a snowstorm, they will all put their rear ends together and make a circle. And usually they'll have the oldest and the youngest in the middle of that circle. They'll close their eyes, so all that heavy fur on their face and their shoulders and hump protects them against that wind, and they actually will rotate the circle. So wherever the wind's coming from, that one bison's not facing that wind the whole time, they rotate. Their hump, that's full of muscle. So in the wintertime, when the snow is up to their knees or up to the bottom of their stomachs, they can actually take their big head and go back and forth like a snowplow, moving it back and forth till they get to the grass so they can still eat. So they use that big hump to make paths as they're walking.
These animals are really amazing. I did wonder, can the staff tell them apart?
Each bison actually has unique horn curvage. So if you look at each bison, you'll see some bison have more curve in their horn than others. Some have more straight horns. And then the hair between the horns, they all have a little bit different hairstyle. So a little bit more curly, straight, ragged, so we can tell by that too.
The story of bison is another lesson in the idea of legacy. And without getting too heavy-handed, let's not forget that a legacy can be positive or negative.
There's estimates that before the Europeans came, 60 million, and some estimates are up to 100 million bison just roaming all over North America. Unfortunately, it's a really sad history that we have with the Europeans first thinking that they would use it for fur and the meat, but then it became, oh, the bison are tied to Native Americans. If we displace the bison, we displace the Native Americans. And then it became the bison are in the way of our expansion of the railroad. When you have 300 to 1,000 bison sitting on a railroad track, they're not moving, and your train is stuck there for hours. That became a problem to the railroad companies, and so they actually hired people to go out and just kill the bison. Over time, that really reduced the population. The funny thing is the U.S. Army actually commissioned people to go out and kill the bison, but then the U.S. Army was the one that protected the last few before they became extinct.
I don't think I need to spell it out for anyone, the irony of the situation. Just a helpful reminder of how our actions can impact generations. And in this case, I'm thankful the bison were saved from extinction and that we have some in Indiana so we can see how fascinating they are. If you want to learn more about them, Jody has a recommendation.
There's a wonderful documentary that Ken Burns did on the American buffalo, it's called. It's on PBS, so I highly recommend it. It's such a good story.
Another major legacy from the CCC is the fire tower. The CCC built the fire tower in 1939, but I was surprised to find out why it was built.
It was never used for fire watching, however. A lot of people think fire tower automatically fire watching. This was actually built for recreational use. When people come to the park, so that's something else they could do. And we make it our focal point, actually. It's pretty much in the middle of our property, no trees really around it. We just redid it. Our friends group actually redid it recently. They refurbished it because it had to be closed due to safety reasons. People don't realize that we do have engineers that do safety inspections on all of our fire towers, and ours failed. And when this is a focal point of this property, we need to open up right away. So our friends group raised $80,000.
$80,000? That's a lot of money. I figured it must have taken years, but then I talked to Kathy Schwartz from the Friends of Ouabache volunteer group and was blown away. Not only by how fun she is, but also by how quickly this group raised the money.
I'm Kathy Schwartz. I am a current member of the board on the Friends group. I am also past president. I got involved in 2016. I went to a Friends meeting. When I left, I was secretary. I haven't quite figured that out yet. And then I went to the second meeting and I was president. So I don't understand it. One of our big gems, as we call it, is our restoration of the fire tower. I think we ended up giving almost $90,000 to the park to do the area around the fire tower. We raised that in 6 months. We were busy. We were busy beavers. We decided we weren't going to spend 5 years doing this. At our age, we don't know if we have 5 years. So we go ahead and we had an event every month, and by the end of 6 months, we had it done.
Their commitment to reopen the fire tower was tremendous. I asked Jody why she thought so many people were quick to help out.
This is the focal point of this property, and all the community wanted it open as soon as possible. And people were giving them money after money after money because they wanted it opened soon. And we have a nice stone pillars around it, the plaza. We have a brick walkway now to it, so it's really nice.
90 years later, here is the impact of an idea Virgil Simmons and Kenneth Kunkle had back in the 1930s. A legacy created as a group of CCC boys turned a scrappy piece of property into a beautiful park that has been loved for generations. That legacy's impact is clearly seen in the work of the Friends group. Here's Kathy again.
The park is what I like to call a hidden gem. I've always loved it. That's what really strikes you when you come into our park. We're quiet and we're peaceful. You feel the love when you walk into the parks.
With such a love for the park, it's easy to see how the Friends group has accomplished so much. Here are a few other things they regularly work on.
I write the Discover magazine. I edit it, that we publish 4 times a year for the park. It's an online magazine, and I have a staff of 15 people. The magazine basically has 3 sections. The first one is a nature section. The second section is on volunteering opportunities and some of the events that we are holding at the park and have held. And the third section is history, that we feel our history of our park is really important. And so we have articles on the history and old newsletters from the old CCC camps that we republish and share with what those guys were thinking about when they made their newsletters. We also have, we're very active in Indiana Master Naturalists. We sponsor both an adult class, and in the summer we have a teen and junior camp. And that's a whole week of them. It's a day camp. It's a whole week of experiencing the park and nature and learning them to be stewards of both our park and our natural reserves. Another program is Lunch and Learn. That's a monthly program that runs from March through October. We meet every second Thursday of the month at noon, and we have speakers come in. People bring in their lunches, and a local catering caters in desserts. We started out maybe having 8 or 10 people appear, and now we have regularly between 60 and 80 people come.
To see the truly beautiful Discover Ouabache magazine, check out the link in the show notes. The Friends Volunteer Group is active and vibrant, and they're always looking for more people to get involved and bring fresh ideas and energy. If you want to learn more, follow Friends of Ouabache State Park on Facebook or send an email to friendsofouabache@gmail.com. Kathy assured me that there is room for everyone to join.
What I love about our group is that we ask what you want to do and can do and don't expect you to do any more. For us who are mobility challenged, we can't go out and clean trails or do the heavy lifting or anything, but there's lots of things we can do. What I like to say is we do what we do and we don't worry about what we can't do.
No matter what your ability or availability, the Friends Group would love to have you part of the park's legacy. Up next, we'll hear about tailblazers and bison in Santa hats. Part of continuing to build a legacy is developing fresh ideas. I loved hearing about a couple new initiatives Ouabache has from one of their office staff members.
I'm Joni Sankata, and I've been here, this is my second camping season. I manage the gate attendants, I manage a lot of the marketing and buying the resale products. I love helping with events and things like that.
Joni loves dogs and at first introduced hound hikes, where people and their dogs would go for walks through the park. As more people and pets joined, she saw an opportunity to do something more and launched a program called Tailblazers. Aren't you so jealous you didn't think of that pun? To be a tailblazer, owners and dogs take the PAWS pledge, PAWS. Pack your waist, always stay on a leash, be wildlife aware, and stay safe and hydrated. If you want to be a tailblazer, here's what you do.
They can take the pledge to be a tailblazer, and then their dog gets a bandana. It has it's a profile of a dog with a ranger hat, and it says tailblazer, and it has Ouabache State Park on it, and bones and paws. I just love orange because I think it stands out. People love it. And what's really fun is we take a picture of the dog with the bandana after they take their pledge. And we ask them the dog's name, of course, and the breed and the age, and then just a fun fact about their pup. That has been so much fun. The fun facts has been my favorite because people will say, my dog's learning to kayak. It's just really fun.
Joni has another idea for guitarists.
There's so much potential here. So the next thing that I have planned is picking at the park, and people bring acoustic guitars, be outside in one of the shelters. People that are passionate about music and love to play and sing. It's just going to be fellowship and outside. So that is the next thing that I want to kind of launch.
If that sounds fun to you, be sure you reach out to the park and ask Joni for more information. In addition to these ideas, here are a couple other events coming up this fall. Here's Kathy from the Friends Group again.
We are going to have an Oktoberfest, the third weekend in October. We have a breakfast there. We also have a scavenger hunt that the kids can go through, and we give clues, and then you have to go take your picture with this decoration that we have put out on the trails and in different places in the park.
After Oktoberfest, keep your December open for the Wonderland of Lights. Here's John.
So we have a really wonderful Christmas light program in the month of December where local groups and families can come out and decorate a campsite. It doesn't cost anything to decorate, and it's a drive-through Christmas light program. It's really special. We light the fire tower, and the fire tower lights are coordinated with music. It's a really neat thing, and it goes from 6 to 9 p.m. every night in December.
Can you also put Santa hats on the bison as they walk around?
We have a fiberglass bison that wears a Santa hat.
There we go. That'll have to do.
While I'm disappointed the bison will not be pulling Santa's sleigh, seeing the 100-foot fire tower decorated with lights and synced to music will be a true delight. Kathy called it a small town, warm, fuzzy Christmas feeling. And who doesn't want that at the holidays? Ouabache is a wonderful park no matter the season. I think the CCC boys would be proud to see how this land they once described as an eyesore is now truly a monument, which has been handed down generation to generation. I hope you can go visit Ouabache and be part of their legacy. A huge thanks goes to the Ouabache staff and volunteers who shared their time and knowledge with me. Thank you John Winnie, Jody Heaston, Joni Sincata, and Kathy Schwartz and the Friends of Ouabache. In the Parks is not officially associated with Indiana DNR, but I'm so thankful for all the work they do for our parks. Please share this podcast with your friends and give us a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow along on Instagram and Facebook at In the Parks Online for more state parks content and my recommendations for the best places to get ice cream near each park. After visiting Ouabache, you have great options. I recommend Toppings for ice cream, or hit up Bummies Drive-In, where you can get a homemade root beer float and a frosted mug. It was delicious. Heads up, cash only at Bummies. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you in the parks.